But that's gonna be so like here.
You know the first time I traveled out in the rain and snow, in the rain
Is that gonna be okay, Ma?
You know the first time I traveled out in the rain and snow, in the rain and snow.
I almost wonder people won't see you there.
Well, we can move.
And my dear mother left me when I was quite young.
Want me to move it back, Mom?
Or do you want this in front of
And my dear
it?
mother left me when I was quite young. When I was quite young. She said, Lord, have mercy on my wicked son.
I just don't think you need everybody up here, do we? I think just one is good.
I'm putting my speech up here so that I don't have to worry about it. Oh,
Okay, Mom?
you want to put yours up
Is that
here?
okay, Carol?
I'm sure it's fine.
Take a hit from mama, please don't cry no more. Cry no more. 'Cause it's soon one morning, down the road I'm going. But I ain't going down that long old lonesome road all by myself. But I ain't going down that long old lonesome road all by myself. I can't carry it, baby, gonna carry somebody else.
Yeah, and then we can move that back. Yeah. Just so that when he's sitting here,
Is that okay, Mom?
oh, sure.
I think you should be here, both of you. Otherwise, you're going to ruin my puppy finish.
Lana, are you leaving your talk up here, or are you bringing it up with you? Are you just
I'm going to leave it here. I just don't want it to get mixed up with Carol.
Papa said, son, you're going to
Okay.
drive me to drinking if you don't stop
Want me to
driving.
just
I'm
hold it
so
for you, Mom?
glad there's
Want me
a
to hold it for you?
podium.
Want me to hold it for you? I can hold
That's
it.
helpful. Just steady yourself.
So will you do that?
Have you heard the story of the hot rod race when the Fords and the Lincolns were setting the pace? That story is true, I'm here to say, because I was driving that Model A. It's got a Lincoln motor in it. It's really souped up, and that Model 8 body makes it look like a pup. It's got 8 cylinders and use them all.
I assume the boys are
Just
coming.
won't stop. With 4 barrel carbs and a dual exhaust and 411 gears, you can really get lost. Got safety too, but I ain't scared. The brakes are good, the tires fast. Pulled out of San Pedro late one night, the moon and the stars were shining bright. We was driving up old Grapevine Hill, passing cars like they were standing still.
Phone's off.
All of a sudden, in the wink of an eye, a Cadillac sedan passed us by. I said, boys, that's a mark for me. By then, the taillight was all you could see. Now, the fellas all ribbed me for being behind, so I thought I'd make that Lincoln unwind. Took my
Mom, do you
foot
want
off
this
the
put
gas,
somewhere else?
man
Want me to hold it or
alive,
just leave it
I shoved
here?
on down into overdrive.
Okay.
Well, I wound it up to 110. My speedometer said that I'd hit top end. My foot was glued like lead to the floor. That's all there is. There ain't no more. Now the boys all thought that I'd lost my sense, and them telephone poles looked like a picket fence. They said, slow down. I see spots. The lines on the road just look like dots. We took a corner, side swiped the truck, and I crossed my fingers just for luck. My fingers was picking up the guardrail close, and the guy beside me was white as a ghost. Smoke was coming from out of the back when I started the game with that Cadillac. I knew I could catch him, and I thought I could pass. Don't you know by then we'd be low on gas. The Had flames coming from out of the side. You can feel the tension, man. What a ride. I said, look out, boys. I got a license to fly. And that caddy pulled over and let us by. Now, all of a sudden, she started to knock.
Good morning.
She started to rock, and I looked in the mirror. Red light was blinking. Them cops was after my hot rod Lincoln.
If everyone could grab a seat, we'll get started in just a minute here.
Well, they arrested me and they put me in jail and they called my pappy to throw my bail. And he said, son, you're gonna drive me to drinking if you don't stop driving that hot rod Lincoln.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I know my dad would be thrilled to see all of you sitting out there today. So I wasn't really sure how to start today, how to talk about my dad, how to memorialize him today. But I thought, what better way to tell a story? I know he would do the same if he were here. So I think most of us in this room have heard about an incident at some point of time. Pete was famous for these. So for those of you that don't know, an incident was a certain characteristic Petey event, some sort of trouble he'd get himself into, some sort of mix-up, etc. Now, I think the term incident came about 10 years ago. I think the term was coined. But as far as I can tell, the incidents go way back. From the time he was a boy and blew the door off a classmate's house with M80s with a cousin who will remain unnamed, because I think they're in the room today, and had to be snuck out of Waterton in the back of Aunt Eleanor's car. Or the time he was chased out of a bar in Babb, Montana for underage drinking, chased out with a shotgun. Or the time I was traveling through Europe with him and he had all of his freshly laundered underwear confiscated from the hotel room and hung in the staff room to dry. I know he could tell a tall tale, but that one's true. I can verify that one. Happy to tell that after. So I wanted to start today by sharing a few of my favorite incidents that I think capture my dad well. So the first story, I just want to preface, I'm going to need to apologize to anyone from Calgary and anyone wearing pointed shoes. Despite what you hear, I'm sure he still liked you very much. So the first story that came to mind is a personal favorite from 2019. I had just started medical school at the University of Calgary, and in the first few months, there was a ceremony called the stethoscope ceremony. This is where new students are presented with their first stethoscope, welcome to the field of medicine. This was something I was very much looking forward to and had long awaited. So on the morning of this ceremony, my dad drove up from Lethbridge. I told him to wear something nice, dress formal. He showed up in a shirt with only a few stains on it. He'd clearly been cooking that morning. He had a pair of jeans that were certainly older than I was, and he had his nicest pair of Skechers on, so I thought, not bad, we'll take it. So as we headed off to the event, a few wrong turns later, otherwise known as looping by my dad, we walked into the atrium at the medical school. Me with my new suit, grinning ear to ear at the sight of my classmates and their family, all here to celebrate our achievement. I noticed, though, as soon as we walked in, my dad paused. He looked around the room. So I turned around and asked my dad what was wrong. As he looked out at the room of 300 or so of my classmates and their families, he proceeded to say, "Look at all these Calgary dickheads and their pointed shoes." He ended that by saying, "I gotta take a video for Ian." Turns out he was serious. So he proceeded to walk into the crowd of 300 or so people to take a video to send to Ian. Turned out to be about a 2-minute video. So I suppose you could tuck your phone into your shirt pocket, turn the video on, make a few laps, and make it out unnoticed. My dad took a different approach. Between a bad shoulder, a couple extra pounds in the midsection, he adopted a quite peculiar posture to take this video. So he certainly drew more attention. And I watched in horror as everyone in the room watched my dad walk around taking a video of these Calgary dickheads. When he was informed that this did in fact meet the criteria for another incident, he was thrilled. And he was happy to tell anyone that would listen, as was I.
When we first told these stories, I always had a feeling that I didn't really know where to place. But now today, as I reflect on it, I know that feeling was pride. I was proud to go through life with Pete as my father. I've got one more that I think many of you in this room have heard, but it's worth repeating. And I think this one is, in fact, the landmark incident. So when I was 12, my dad and I spent 3 weeks traveling through Europe. This was one of the most impactful 3 weeks of my life, and one of the times I hold most dearly, being able to spend this time with my dad. We were traveling by train to Paris. It was an overnight train ride. We had rented a sleeper car, 2 bunk beds, a large window to look out at the countryside. So that morning, we woke up. We knew we were to arrive in Paris that day. Both just awoke. We spent the morning in our beds looking out the window. Now, for those of you that don't know, at this point in my dad's life, he favored sleeping in what are best known as tighty-whities. For those unfamiliar with the term, they're short, men's, white briefs. So, as we approached Paris, we somehow missed the announcement that we were arriving at the station soon, which is pretty surprising because my dad was, quote, fluent in European. So all of a sudden, the train was slowing down, and there we were at our destination. Within a few seconds, we were face to face with hundreds of Parisians waiting to catch their morning train to work. My response to this was to shrink underneath the covers of the top bunk to avoid ending up on YouTube for my friends back home to see. And there was my dad. Little did I have to worry, still in his underwear with hundreds of onlookers. He decided to close the curtain with his foot. He's quite an agile man. Now, eventually the curtain did get closed, and we were on our way with our trip. I think after a few moments of embarrassment on behalf of both of us, we were both gleeful that we both knew we had struck gold in another tale to report home about. I could certainly stand here for hours and talk about all these incidents. And I think this is what a lot of us think of Pete when we first think of him. His sense of humor, his stories, and his fun-loving personality. As one of my cousins put it, Pete always brought the fun. I think everyone here would agree. There was another side of my dad, though, that many of us knew as well. This other side marked by compassion, generosity, and a deep love for his family and friends. Now, he was a man of many words when sharing a story, his newest recipe. But this wasn't how Pete expressed love. He did one better. He showed us every day through his actions. Whether it be the daily phone calls to check in, see how you're doing, talk about his newest recipe, the never-ending supply of freezer meals, or the hours that me, my brother, and sister spent driving around on Saturday afternoons talking about life and looking for discount beef tenderloin. Or even the countless hours I spent with him watching football on what we called the Hawk's Nest. These are moments that I hold so closely and appreciate now more than ever. When I first heard that he passed away, among many thoughts, one that struck out to me was a deep sadness that my daughter Ozzy, niece and nephew, Evelyn and Oliver, and all future Macleans to come, wouldn't get to know Pete. But as I wrote this speech, I realized that pieces of my dad live on through all of us. I see pieces of my dad in the immense love my sister has for her children and incredible devotion she has to those kids. I see it in the memories my sister and her husband are already building with their children, the same kinds of memories that we had with our dad. I see it in my brother Ian's quick wit and often just right amount of inappropriateness that causes a room to erupt in laughter and my mom to roll her eyes. I see it in my brother's blossoming brilliance in business and his immense capacity for love. I see it in myself on a daily basis as I move into my new role as a dad to my daughter. Through this, we can be comforted by the fact that even if our children never met Pete or were too young to remember Pete, they will come to know who he was through us. I want to share a few words that I know my dad knew, but I want him to hear one more time. Dad, I can't describe how much we will miss you and how much the people in this room will miss you. You were my role model and such a role model to many here today. Dad, I love you, and everyone in this room loves you. The last thing I have to say today are a few words that I found in a graduation card he had written to me a few years ago. And I think these words really were part of his key to happiness. He wrote, "A sense of satisfaction in life is partly achievements and the respect you earn. But true joy in life is the love you give and receive in your relationships." And I know he lived by these words. I want to end my speech today the same way he ended that letter. See the good, live large, love Dad.
For those of you who don't know, I'm Peter's sister, Carol. And, I don't really ever remember a life without Peter. I was just 21 months his senior, so for me it's really hard to capture that, his personality and our sibling relationship in just a few paragraphs. The first thing that comes to mind when I think about Peter is knee-slapping laughter, because there was never a dull moment with Pete around. His wacky sense of humor and his tall tales, he got me over every time. He had a way of tricking me into believing that his stories were true. And, you would think, growing up and living with him and being around him all these years, that I wouldn't fall for it. But he got me every time, and then I would laugh until I cried, and that's just what I remember, is so much laughter with Pete. And Davis said that, that with Peter it was always laughter. And, Peter and I genetically, we shared, we lacked in a sense of direction. Needless to say, we got lost together quite a few times. And we would laugh every time. And we would just crack up laughing. So I'm going to tell a little story about that, because it happened just a few years ago. Peter and I were coming home on the ferry from the island, and we lost our car. We couldn't, for the life of us, remember where we'd left our car. So we're racing up and down the ferry in panic mode, and finally Peter realized he could push the panic button, which he did. So we found the car just in the nick of time. Everybody was honking for us to get out of there. And we got into the car, and we just laughed and laughed for several miles. We laughed, and how typical that was of us, Macleans, a bad sense of direction. And later that morning, I don't know, we looked at each other, and we both realized at about the same time that we were on the wrong highway. Peter never got upset when he took a wrong turn. He always said, "Oh, well, just a few extra loops, no big deal." And we'd laugh some more. So I just loved my car trips with Peter. He usually drove, and we'd cruise along singing country music, eating licorice and probably bad donuts. Our pit stops were mostly to check out the quality of the mystery meat in the gas stations. Oh, did I mention Pete loves mystery meat? He loved his mystery meat. On any given day, my phone would ring, and it would be Pete, and he would say, "I'm bringing dinner." Just out of the blue, no reason, no occasion, just dinner. He would arrive with enough food for the whole neighborhood, even if it meant driving to Waterton to deliver it, which he did on quite a few occasions. Often when he couldn't sleep at night, Peter would get up and cook. The next day, his family and friends would receive the night kitchen goodies. Peter so enjoyed his night kitchen. He was doing what he loved. He called me at least once a day to tell me where the bargains were and which stores he'd already cruised through or what he'd prepared before 8 a.m. I will miss those calls. Peter was very good at staying connected. My husband, Dave, wasn't too happy when Peter became a father. I would constantly tell Dave he could take a lesson or two from Pete on parenting. I thought Pete was the best father a kid could have, and the best uncle, too. His face would light up with joy when he was telling me what was going on with his kids or grandkids. He was so very proud of all of their achievements. The last few years were difficult for Peter due to his failing heart. But he never gave up hope, always sure that things were going to get better. Peter showed remarkable mental strength on a daily basis and always, always found gratitude and humor in every bad situation. Peter made me proud to be a sister, and I will be forever grateful to have had him as a brother all these years. Thank you, Peter, for your unconditional love. Rest in peace, my brother. I love you.
Good morning. I'm Patty Maclean. I met Peter when he was 14, an awkward age for many young men, but not for him. He had all the confidence in the world. As the world opened up for him, so did his stories and his capacity to capture a room with tales, mostly true. When he entered a room, the fun factor went up. Many a dining room table were rocked with laughter as he regaled us with story after story, including many from his days in the Crow's Nest Pass working for Craig's Construction. However, it was tales of his first girlfriend, Bumidine Sclevy, that entertained all ages for many years. Peter loved visiting with people. The kids would often burst through the front door after an outing with him and say, "Mom, he'll talk to anyone." For a man so at ease with words, he often had a tough time verbalizing heartfelt sentiments. If he wanted to say, "I'm thinking of you," a brisket and a side of mac and cheese would show up. If he wanted to say, "I'm sorry," a tray full of tarts and the recipe. And he felt sushi was good for the soul anytime. In helping at his house the other day, I was astounded at the number of new disposable containers he had, just waiting to be filled with food and delivered. He had no plans to slow down. Peter loved the phone, and TELUS Mobility loved him. I would often get a call from him that had no other reason than to tell me he was on his way to pick up my dad because beef tenderloin was on sale at the wholesale club. By the same token, calls were often abruptly ended with a, "Gotta go, Lyle's on the other line." It was okay, because I knew he'd call back tomorrow. In 2008, Peter made a life decision that rejuvenated him from his very core. He said shortly after that he could be happy just sitting in a snowbank. It took me some time to unpack that thought, but it soon became obvious that what he meant was he allowed himself the serenity to see the value and clarity in life's simplest moments. I was very privileged and will always be profoundly grateful to have shared the journey of parenthood with Peter Maclean. From the time Emily was born, he hit the ground running, and quite frankly, he never stopped. He was truly the gold standard of fatherhood. Peter was a voracious reader. On his bookshelves, the incomparable Louis L'Amour westerns took their rightful spot next to crime dramas, cookbooks, and books that pondered the meaning of life. At the back of the room, you'll find a selection from Peter's library. Emily, Ian, and Davis invite you to take a book when you leave, read it, keep it if you wish, or pass it along. Peter would like that. Peter was not a fan of goodbyes, never mind long goodbyes, just goodbyes in general. As many of you will have witnessed, when Peter was done with the evening, even if the evening wasn't done with him, he just vanished. A lucky person might get a see ya if you were standing by the front door, but otherwise, he'd call tomorrow. In true Peter fashion, last Tuesday, he left without the frivolity of a fuss. But I know we all wish he would call tomorrow.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Catherine. I'm Pete's sister. When Pete was around, we knew there was going to be fun and laughter no matter the occasion. Pete had a way of making everything fun. Having Pete as a big brother was especially entertaining. When Sue and I were little, he used to take us out often. We don't remember all the details of these outings, but one thing that we both remember is that we felt like we'd won a contest if we were the kid who got to ride in the trunk on the way home. One of the ways that Pete showed us that he loved us is by feeding us. He loved to throw a party, and he always fed big groups of people. So many of us have enjoyed the great meals he prepared and the fun we had with him. In his earlier cooking days, some of us got to enjoy his more creative cooking skills. I'm sure that Em and Ian and Davis will remember when Pete used to make blowtorch nachos in the motel room that didn't have a microwave. Yeah, they tasted a bit like lighter fluid, but we all thought it was the greatest thing. Pete used to say that he and the kids had the best pew in church on Sundays. Of course, what he meant is that they were on the chairlift at the ski hill. He spent many happy days skiing with his kids. Spending time with his children and his grandchildren was Pete's favorite thing in the world. He told me he couldn't think of anything better. Pete also spent lots of time with his nieces and nephews. He would go out of his way to help us out. He came up to Calgary to babysit our kids several times. The last time he babysat for us, we all thought that everything had gone well. It wasn't until Nate and I got home and school started up again that we learned that Charlie had gotten into a little trouble at school and was suspended for a day or so. To Pete's credit, he didn't know anything about Charlie's school incident, as Charlie didn't want to ruin the weekend, so he didn't see any reason to mention it to him. And of course, they did have fun. There was no sense in being glum while Uncle Pete was in town. After I got home and got the call from school, I remember calling Pete to tease him about Charlie getting suspended under his watch. We had a good laugh about it. The same weekend, he also gave our boys their first driving lesson, and Sam has some fond memories of Pete pretending to be stuck in a traffic circle while demonstrating how not to do it. My boys loved him, and we are grateful for the time he spent with them. Pete loved talking on the phone. He used to check in with me often about how we were adjusting to life in Texas. Even as he was recovering from his heart surgery, he would take the time to call, and he was always positive and encouraging. That is how I will remember him. Pete was the glue that connected many of us together. He was the common thread who kept us all up to date on what was happening in each other's lives. Now it's up to us to continue building these connections with each other. We will miss him dearly, but we can honor him by uplifting one another, just like he would have done if he were here. I loved you, Pete.
Okay. My name is Lana LeGrandier. I am Peter's cousin. These are my children, Kevin and Suzanne. They are up here so that if I stumble and fall, they can pick me up. Actually, no, they are here to support me and all the family with the loss of our Peter. Peter influenced my children's lives as they saw a man with drive, skills, intelligence, personality, success, and a deep love for his family. But don't you ever think he wasn't a little Fokker. I have known him all his life, so I have the goods on him. I love my little cousin Peter. I spent so much time with Pete at Nanny and Grant Maclean's in Pincher Creek and Waterton. I'm not sure why it was just Pete and I sometimes with our nanny, because he spent a lot of time with his cousins Jim and, should I say, Zim. He called Jim Zim all the time. Don and Jim Lucas, and at his Aunt Eleanor and Uncle Frank's very many times. And of course, we can't forget the times spent at Christina Lake with the 5 Stefanelli brothers. Our nanny always called Peter the Good. Oh my God. That's because as a child, he told Nanny that he was going to be a minister. And she was sucked right into that. He used to get me in so much trouble with Nanny, and I was supposedly her pet, but actually, no, it was Peter. She would always believe what he told her, and then he would laugh outrageously after she left the room. We had lovely Thanksgiving dinners at Nanny and Gramps, and I think Peter was maybe 9 or 10 or something, not sure. Nanny requested Peter say grace as he was going to be a minister. Of course, Peter agreed with his Maclean personality. So with all our eyes closed at the table, Lori and June were there, and everybody. I think the Lucas were there too, and of course us. So with all our eyes closed and our hands praying together, these were his words for grace for his nanny and the whole family at Thanksgiving. Rub-a-dub-dub, 3 men in a tub, thanks for the grub, yay God. Ian, Emily, and Davis. There are no words to express our sadness with the passing of your dad, Pete, and my Pete. You shared him with many people. Ian, Emily, and Davis didn't know their dad when he was growing up, but I did. My childhood friend, the cutest little man, but a brat from hell at times. But a young man who went on with determination, knowing the goals he wanted to achieve, loving his family, losing his mom at a young age, but also having tremendous support from his sister Carol during that time and all his life, and his dad and his brother Patrick. I think the greatest love in his life has been for his children, grandchildren, and family. He is so proud of them and so in love with them. Thank God we had time with, Thank God he had time with them, and I thank God for the precious time I spent with him. I love you, Peter Neil Maclean. The other cousins, besides the Lucases and Lagrangers, are the Stefanelli cousins, and 3 of them couldn't come, so they sent a nice message to all of us in the family. So this is from Tom, Mike, and Mark. Mike is in Vancouver, Tom is in Palm Springs, and Mark is in Newfoundland. Andy is here today, and I think David is here. There you are. David and Susan and Teresa and Marina are here. Thank you. So this is from Tom, Mark, and Mike. This is from the Stefanellis, the British Columbia branch of the family. Although Dave and family and Andy are there with you, paying their respects, 3 of us, Tom, Mike, and Mark, and families, unfortunately cannot be present. Just know that we are with you in spirit and are thinking of Pete and both mourning and celebrating from a distance. I think the Stefanellis have traditionally been thought of as the more quiet, less extrovertive and gregarious branch of the family. The Alberta side of the family has always been larger than life to us. Cousin Lana put it best when she recently described the personality type of the Alberta side as Maclean. Cousin Pete exemplified what it means to be a Maclean. He was and is unforgettable. Uncle Steph, that's the boy's dad, John Stefanelli, always used to talk about Pete. He was known around our home as Painless Pete because of his dental skills. Our father was even more impressed, however, with his skills as a businessman. He used to say, "Whatever Peter touches turns to gold." We would like to share some memories of our Pete. Mike remembers one of our trips to Lethbridge to visit the Macleans. He was still quite young, maybe 10 years old. Peter was a teenager, about 15 or 16, and had his bedroom out in the garage, separate from the house. I don't remember that. Mike remembers being envious, thinking how cool that would be. From then on, Peter was the cool cousin in Mike's eyes. Peter's cool factor only increased when on another trip, Pete introduced Mike to the Arlo Guthrie album, Alice's Restaurant. Mike came to love that album and loves it to this day. Mike's girlfriend, Brenda, remembers Pete taking the time to show her around the Lethbridge home, including the back stairs off the kitchen and the other neat areas in the house. She remembers Pete as sweet and friendly, easygoing and welcoming. There's a few little controversial things here, but anyways. Mark remembers Pete making his annual trips to Christina Lake, usually bringing one or more of his friends, all of whom had unusual and often politically incorrect nicknames. The one that stands out for all of us was the name given by Pete to his very good friend Gary Yamashita, who he affectionately referred to as the Jap. It's true. Gary didn't mind. Mark always remembers Pete cooking elaborate breakfasts. In fact, Pete provided Mark with first exposure to fried green tomatoes. Finally, Mark remembers that during the family reunion at Waterton Lakes, because he and his family traveled there from Newfoundland, his boys had severe jet lag and would often be up walking the streets at the crack of dawn. Typically, they would run into Pete and often Davis at one of the local restaurants. Pete would invite them to sit down and join him and Davis for breakfast, and in typical Pete fashion, always insisted on picking up the tab. Tom remembers visiting Nanny and Grandpa at their Waterton Lakes home. Pete, who was probably about 10 or 12 years old at the time, and cousin Zimmy Lucas came running into the house like they were being chased by the devil. Ultimately, it ends up that they had been fishing that night using a flashlight, which apparently is frowned upon, and the game warden was close behind. Tom, who lives in Palm Springs, California, is very appreciative of the fact that for the last several years, Peter has been spending a month or two every year in Palm Springs. Peter, who was somewhat of a gourmet chef, would always invite Tom and his son John for dinner. Peter became Tom's source for photographs and information about the Alberta side of the family as a whole, and of course especially related to Emily, Ian, and Davis and what was happening in their lives. I am sure that you are well aware, but your dad was very proud of you. One year, Peter brought his brother Patrick with him to California. Peter by himself was formidable, but when Patrick was added to the mix, the double dose of the Maclean factor made the two irresistible. They shared with Tom their story and photos of running into a university girls' cheerleading squad in Las Vegas. Of course, nothing inappropriate occurred, but it is a testament to the power of the Macleans that these young, beautiful 19 and 20-year-old cheerleaders chose to spend time in Las Vegas with two old farts in their 60s. Pete was generous to a fault. When the family got together for Teresa Stefanelli's wedding, of course, most everybody ended up at the bar. Peter, who had not had a drop of alcohol in years, still insisted on paying the bill for the whole group. In his words, since he no longer drinks, his booze budget had grown and it had to be spent. We will always remember Peter with a smile on his face and a twinkle in his eye. He was the quintessential Maclean. Godspeed, Pete.
Where do I even start? Pete's sudden passing just shocked me. Just the other day, day before we had coffee, we were talking about going golfing in Kimberley in June, planning our Phoenix and Palm Springs trip this winter. Just wow. Pete was one of those guys with a great sense of humor, a little dry, but great sense of humor. I could probably tell you a few incidents, but they're a little off color, so I'm going to let the family and friends fill in the blanks there. But he was a real family man. He loved his family, and he always talked about his grandkids whenever he could. Pete really, really enjoyed his time with them. Just amazing. Doug Richardson asked me earlier today, he said, when's the first time you met Pete? Well, I can still remember it was probably the late 70s. I was about 23 years old, just started in construction. Pete was in Blairmore. He just finished graduating out of dentistry, and he was going to build a dental office. His accountant called my father and said, can you come out and meet these two dentists? It was Pete and Gary. They want to build a dental office in Coaldale. It wasn't a dental office in Coaldale, so he thought they'd build a dental office in Coaldale. So I said, okay, my dad said, go out there and have a look. So I went out there and I met him, and I thought, geez, this is bad. It's a Friday night. I've got better things to do Friday night than hang out with a dentist. But regardless, I went out there and I walked into the office there, and Pete was in his cowboy days. Cowboy shirt, jeans, cowboy boots, denim pants. It was, and his feet was up on the desk. Feet was on the desk. He had a warm bottle of Crown Royal. Well, Pete and I finished off that bottle of Crown Royal. I built his dental clinic. We've been best buddies ever since. Goodbye, Pete. Thanks for being there. You've been a damn good friend.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for all the kind words today. I know my dad would be so thrilled to have heard all these stories one more time. To end today, I want to mention some cards that we have placed near the entrance of the chapel. Yeah, absolutely. Eleanor, would you like to come say something? Please do.
Down here. Yep, right, okay. I am Pete St. Eleanor on the Maclean side. Sit down. We had many happy vacations when Peter visited us, and we lived in every province and up to Alaska. And it always was a thrill when this smiling little twerp would be at my door shouting, "Where's Zim?" And then it was like they set a stage, these boys, and the world was theirs, and the fun began. I could tell you so many stories of mishaps that happened. One time, we were at Waterton, and they had money to go to the theater that night. Now, what can they do in a theater? 2 hours. I thought, well, I'm free for 2 hours. They managed to buy red noses powered with a battery and a pocket full of beans and a pea shooter. Now, maybe the boys don't do that anymore, but they were in that theater and they caused quite a riot. They shot. I don't know if they ever were evicted, but Pat managed to get one in his ear.
Patrick did, yes.
Yeah. So I took him to see Dr. Brayton the next day, and he retrieved the bean.
Wait a second, I thought June took him to the hospital that night in Pincher Creek, didn't she? I think so.
He had several bean occasions,
Wait,
but anyway, he did.
I got to interrupt you, because that was so good. I remember that so well. Pete and I found these enormous sunglasses. Big, yellow, bright yellow lenses like frames like that, green lenses, and as she was saying, this red nose with a light in behind that you can control with that. Okay. Totally ridiculous, absolutely perfect for a night in Waterton Theater. Hold it. I was in the theater that night with my new girlfriend. I know, I didn't include that. That's too lunatic. But I don't know who it is. Come wandering down the aisle with their huge sunglasses, their blinking big red nose, and they stop at every aisle and nail people. And they get to our aisle and they really go after it. And go, who are these idiots? And I'd be like, oh my God, it's crazy Peter and my brother. Okay, Don, I get to stop you the whole theater. I remember so well we waited till the crowd was seated, and the lights went down. We donned our sunglasses. We marched side by side down that aisle, and heads turned. And I remember my brother Don saying, "Oh no, it's my brother." And cousin Jerry groans, "Oh man." And their girlfriends there, right? So I mean, you couldn't script that anymore. Right? We get to the front of the theater. We turn and we face the audience. We pause just to kind of work the moment. And then we flash those red lights out, and then the nose is lit up, and the lenses blazed out, and the crowd absolutely roared and laughed. Right? Then we sat down to pursue the next row front. Because no self-respecting kid went without a water pistol or a...
Yeah. Yeah. Another experience they had, his Uncle Frank was interested in all the boys' toys, and he acquired a bullwhip. Maybe it's called a cat o' nine tails.
No,
it's a bullwhip. So the trick is you put the whip behind you and snap your wrist, and it cracks like a bullet. Well, there's quite an act to doing that. And I think Pete lashed his back so severely that we wondered if he'd ever take his shirt off when he got home. And then in Alaska, they found out that firecrackers were sold all year round. Now, you know how we only get firecrackers at certain times, and you're limited. There, you could buy any number. Our backyard sounded like a battleground, and a neighbor said to me, "Are all Canadians like that?"
Davis, I didn't even remember that story about blowing stuff up, because frankly, he and I blew up so much stuff, it kind of got lost.
There you are.
You know, one of the things that I remember so clearly is he was such an entertainer. Even from the time he was a kid. You know, he'd perform at the drop of a hat, especially with adoring adults. And I can see him so clearly. He'd throw his shoulders back and he'd crack that toothless grin, and he'd burst into his favorite song. Do you remember it? Yeah. Sugar in the morning, sugar in the evening, sugar at supper time. Be my little honey and love me all the time.
He said, "Love me all
Yeah, it was sugar instead of sugar. Another time, he came to Pincher Creek, and he had been to Disneyland. My cousin Jerry and my brother Don and I, we'd never met anybody who'd been to Disneyland. So when he got into town, man, we plunked him down in my grandfather Maclean's backyard, sat down in front of him, just so eager to hear and we hung on his every word. I mean, the kid had a gift. It was so great. I bet you guys remember that as well, right? What kind of friendship did he and I have? You know that feeling you get on the last day of school, where the promise of summer is just stretching ahead of you with all those endless possibilities? If you could capture that feeling every day of your life, you'd stay young forever. Well, I got to tell you, when he and I were together and teamed up, as we were for summers, right into our teenage years, if you could capture that feeling, you'd stay young forever, man. And that's what we had on a day-to-day basis.
When Peter talked and told a story, the bonfire became a raging inferno, and the racetrack was a drive-through hell. When he told the story, he had gestures and language that you never heard any other place. And I secretly used to listen to him and think, hot damn, that kid can tell us a story.
Yeah, for sure. Like, we could see humor in places that others saw none. I mean, every day was an adventure. Every day was full of laughter. One time, you told the story about Waterton Park, but...
there were lots of those. Lana told the story about the fishing expedition, and that night they caught that fish illegally. And when they bumbled in the door, the ranger was in there talking to my dad, and they had this illegal fish, and they stumbled out, and Pete tossed that fish into a big basket of bleeding hearts that my mother had at the door. And they came in with the guiltiest look, and I knew, what have they done now?
The great thing is, those playful events that you experience as a child, they seem to blend in and develop who you are as a person. Yeah. And I think, judging from the stories you've heard tonight, much of his legacy comes from those playful times. And it sure did for me, and I thank him so much. I'll miss him. Bye-bye.
The years rolled by, and the boy became a man.
Okay,
and we miss him. We will never forget him. We loved you, Pete.
Before you shut it down, I want to do one more here. After he got through with the theater the next morning, I was walking around with that same girlfriend. Trying to impress the next morning girl after that. And two idiots in the middle of the day out in the little wading pool in the park. And they are soaking wet, and they're kicking water over their head, splashing around like worked on the campus building this last year, the whole inside of it. And they were working in they were working in the basement, and when they were ripping out the plumbing, they found so much hazardous stuff down there that they had to get the hazmat team in. I mean, they were finding like arsenic, cocaine, morphine, heroin, and the kicker was radiation in the pipe. It took out the plumbing. They have to get the hazmat team in to do this simple work.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Donnie. I remember having a chat with my dad. He told me about your guys' wedding speech. I think this rivaled it, so thank you. So, back to it. To end today, I want to mention some cards we have placed near the entrance of the chapel. These cards are an invitation to share some of your favorite stories about Pete, or favorite stories that Pete would tell. Jim, Donnie will get you a couple cards. We would like to get as many stories as we can from all of you here and compile them together into a memory book. Please feel free to include photos as well. For those of you joining via the live stream, we will display a card in front of the camera for a few minutes. Storytelling was such a huge part of my dad's life, and we hope that this way these stories can carry on. Finally, to end today's speech, I want to invite all of you to enjoy some food, take some time to catch up with friends and family. This is ultimately what my dad would have wanted today. Thank you all for coming.
With a pack on my back, tired of transportation in the back of a hack. I love to hear the rhythm of the clickety-clack, hear the lonesome whistle, see the smoke from the stack. Pal around with Democratic fellas named Mac, so take me right back to the track. Jack, choo-choo, choo-choo, choo-boogie, woo-woo, woo-woo, choo-boogie, choo-choo, choo-choo, choo-boogie. Take me right back to the track. Jack. Well, I reached my destination, but alas and alack, I need some compensation to get back in the black. I take a morning paper from the top of the stack, read the situation from the front to the back. The only thing that's open takes a man with a knack, so put it right back in a stack. Jack, choo-choo, choo-choo, choo-boogie, woo-woo, woo-woo, choo-boogie, choo-choo, choo-choo, choo-boogie. Take me right back to the track. Jack.
settled down by the railroad track and live the life of Riley in a beaten down shack. So when I hear a whistle, I can peep through the crack and hear the train a-rolling while she's bawling the jack. I love to hear the rhythm of the clickety-clack, so take me right back to the track, Jack. Choo-choo, choo-choo, choo-boogie, woo-woo, woo-woo, choo-boogie, choo-choo, choo-choo, choo-boogie. Take me right back to the track, Jack. Take me right back to the track, Jack.
I've seen a lot of places, I've been around the world. I've seen some pretty faces, been with some beautiful girls. After all I've witnessed, one thing still amazes me. Just like a miracle, you have to see to believe. God bless Texas. First he lit the sunshine, then he made the waters deep. Then he gave us moonlight for all the world to see. Well, everybody knows that the Lord works in mysterious ways. He took a rest, then on the very next day. God bless Texas with his own hand, brought down angels from the promised land. Gave them a place where they could dance. If you wanna see heaven, brother, here's your chance. Well, I've been sent to spread the message. God bless Texas. God bless Texas with his own hand, brought down angels from the promised land. He gave them a place where they could dance. If you wanna see heaven, brother, here's your chance. I've been sent to spread the message. God bless Texas. I've been sent to spread the message. God bless Texas. I've been sent to spread the message. God bless Texas.
Well, I'm running down the road trying to loosen my load. I got 7 women on my mind. 4 that wanna own me, 2 that wanna stone me, 1 says she's a friend of mine. Take it easy, take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy.
this morning, put on my slippers, walked in the kitchen and died. And oh, what a feeling when my soul went through the ceiling and on up into heaven I did ride. When I got there, they did say, John, it happened this way. You slipped upon the floor and hit your head. And all the angels say, just before you passed away, these were the very last words that you said. Please don't bury me down in the cocoa ground. No, I'm gonna have them cut me up and pass me all around. Throw my brain in a hurricane and the blind can have my eyes, and the deaf can take both of my ears if they don't mind the sound. Give my stomach to Milwaukee if they run out of beer. Put my socks in a cedar box, just get 'em out of here. Venus de Milo can have my arms, look out, I've got your nose. Sell my heart to the junk man and give my love to Rose. But please don't bury me down in that cocoa ground. No, I'm gonna have them cut me up and pass me all around. Throw my brain in a hurricane and the blind can have my eyes, and the deaf can take both of my ears if they don't mind the size. Give my feet to the footloose, careless, fancy-free. Give my knees to the needy, don't pull that stuff on me. Hand me down my walking cane, it's a sin to tell a lie. Send my mouth way down south and kiss my ass goodbye. But please don't bury me down in that cocoa ground. No, I'm gonna have them cut me up and pass me all around. Throw my brain in a hurricane and the blind can have my eyes, and the deaf can take both of my ears if they don't mind the size.
Trying to boogie-woogie down Route 66. Well, if you ever plan to motor west, take my way, that's the highway, that is the best. Keep your kicks out on Route 66. Well, it winds from Chicago to LA, more than 2,000 miles along the way. Get your kicks out on Route 66. Winds to St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City, it sure looks pretty. You should see Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona, darling, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Barstow, San Bernardino. Once you get hip, it's kind of tip. When you take that California trip, get your kicks on Route 66. Let it roll.
Dallas to St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City, it sure looks pretty. You should see Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona, darling, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Barstow, San Bernardino. Once you get hip, it's time to tip. When you take the California trip, get your kicks out on Route 66. Or you can cop a few licks driving down Route 66. And you can meet a few hicks traveling down Route 66. You'll be feeling real fine on Route 66.
Boys,
Wade in the water about halfway up. Baby said, whoa, that's far enough. Can't get nowhere. Can't get nowhere. Can't find my way from here to there. Can't get started. Can't get nowhere. You're a fastball, baby, inside curve. I take a swing, I ain't got the nerve. Can't get nowhere. Can't get nowhere. Can't find my way from here to there. Can't get started. Can't get nowhere. Takes me all night, must be something wrong. Just to do what I used to do all night long. Can't get nowhere. Can't get nowhere. Can't find my way from here to there. Can't get started. Can't get nowhere. Oh, here we go. One have to stand on a chair just to get things done. Can't get nowhere. Can't get nowhere. Can't find my way from here to there. Can't get started. Can't get nowhere. Ah, Fats Kaplan on the steel guitar. My boy, my boy. One more time. Let it fly. Time I used to get on down. Now I can't seem to get off the ground. Can't get nowhere. Can't get nowhere. Can't find my way from here to there. Can't get started. Takes me all night. Must be something wrong just to do what I used to do all night long. Can't get nowhere. Hey, can't get nowhere. Can't find my way from here to there. Can't get started. Can't get nowhere. I can't find my way from here to there. Can't get started. Can't get nowhere. Everybody sing, oh me, oh my, oh you. What's a poor boy gonna do? Oh me, oh my. Can't get started, I don't know why. Can't get nowhere. Can't get nowhere. Can't find my way from here to there. Can't get started, can't get nowhere. I can't get nowhere. Can't get nowhere. Can't get nowhere. Can't find my way from here to there. Can't get started, can't get nowhere. Can't find my way from here to there. Can't get started, can't get nowhere. Can't get nowhere. Can't get started, can't get started. All night long, getting on. My way to there.
I got my toes in the water, ass in the sand, not a worry in a world of cold beer in my hand. Life is good today. Life is good today. Well, a plane touched down just about 3 o'clock, and the city's still on my mind. Bikinis and palm trees danced in my head. I was still in the baggage line. Concrete cars, oh, they own prison bars like this life I'm living in. But the plane brought me farther. I'm surrounded by water, and I'm not going back again. I got my toes in the water, ass in the sand, not a worry in a world of cold beer in my hand. Life is good today. Life is good today. Adios and via con Dios. Yeah, I'm leaving GA. And if it weren't for tequila and pretty senoritas, I'd have no reason to stay. Adios and via con Dios. Yeah, I'm leaving GA. Gonna lay in the hot sun and roll a big fat one and grab my guitar and play. Days flew by like a drunk Friday night as the summer drew to an end. They can't believe that I just couldn't leave, and I bid adieu to my friends. Cause my bartender, she's from the islands. Her body's been kissed by the sun, and coconut replaces the smell of the bar, and I don't know if it's her or the rum. I got my toes in the water, ass in the sand, not a worry in a world of cold beer in my hand. Life is good today. Life is good today. Adios and via con Dios. A long way from GA. Yes, and all the muchachas, they call me Big Papa when I throw pesos their way. Adios and via con Dios. A long way from GA. Someone do me a favor and pour me some Jaeger, and I'll grab my guitar and play. And via con Dios. Going home now to stay. The senoritas don't care when there's no dinero. Yeah, I got no money to stay. Adios and via con Dios. Going home now to stay. Just gonna prop up by the lake and put my ass in a lawn chair, toes in the clay. Not a worry in a world of PBR on the way. Life is good today. Life is good today.
Well, you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow. Kick off your shoes and you throw them on the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night. Waiting in the front yard, sitting on a log. A single-shot rifle and a one-eyed dog. Yonder come my kinfolk in the moonlight. Louisiana Saturday night. Well, you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow. Kick off your shoes and you throw them in the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night.
Bill and my other brother Jack, belly full of beer and a possum in a sack. 15 kids in the front porch light, Louisiana Saturday night. When the kinfolk leave and the kids get fed, me and my woman gonna slip off to bed. Have a little fun when we turn out the lights, Louisiana Saturday night. Well, you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow, kick off your shoes and you throw them on the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light, Louisiana Saturday night. Yeah, you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow, kick off your shoes and you throw them on the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light, Louisiana Saturday night. Get down the fiddle and you get down the bow, kick off your shoes and you throw them on the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light, Louisiana Saturday night.
was sitting there
selling turnips on a flatbed truck, crunching on a pork rind when she pulled up. She had to be thinking this is where rednecks come from. She had Hollywood written on her license plate. She was lost and looking for the interstate, needing directions, and I was a man for the job. I told her way up yonder past the caution light, there's a little country store with an old Coke sign. You gotta stop in and ask Miss Bell for some of her sweet tea. Then a left will take you to the interstate, but a right will bring you right back here to me. I was sitting there thinking about her pretty face, kicking myself for not catching her name. I threw my hat and thought, you fool, you could have been love. I knew my old Ford couldn't run her down. She probably didn't like me anyhow, so I watched her disappear into a cloud of dust. I told her way up yonder past the caution light, there's a little country store with an old Coke sign. You gotta stop in and ask Miss Bell for some of her sweet tea. Then a left will take you to the interstate, but a right will bring you right back here to me. Yes, it's Georgia Heat playing tricks on me, or am I really seeing what I think I see? The woman of my dreams coming back to me. Something felt right when she stopped and asked Miss Bell for some of her sweet tea. Mama gave her a big old glass and sent her right back here to me. Thank God for good direction and turnip greens.
This song is by Ray Wiley Hubbard.
He was born in Oklahoma, and his wife's name's Betty Lou Thelma Liz. He's not responsible for what he's doing, 'cause his mother made him what he is. And it's up against the wall, redneck mother, mother who has raised a son so well. He's 34, drinking in a honky-tonk, just kicking hippies' asses and raising hell. Sure does like his Falstaff beer. He likes to chase it down with that wild turkey liquor. He drives a 57 GMC pickup truck. Got a gun rack, goat roper, and he's loved two-sticker
T is for T-Bird. H is for Haggard. E is for eggs. And R is for redneck.
Up against the wall, redneck mother. Mother who has raised his son so well. He's 34 and drinking in a honky-tonk. Kicking hippies' asses and raising hell. Let's go. Yeah, it's up against the wall, redneck mother. Mother who has raised his son so well. He's 34, drinking in a honky-tonk. Just kicking hippies' asses and raising hell. What's that smell? Let's go get Oklahoma, USA. "737 coming out of the sky. Oh, won't you take me down to Memphis on a midnight ride? I wanna move, playing in a traveling band. Yeah, but I'm flying across the land, trying to get a hand, playing in a traveling band. Take me to the hotel, bag is gone, oh well. Come on, won't you get me to my room? I won't move, playing in a traveling band. Yeah, well I'm flying across the land, trying to get a hand, playing in a traveling band. Listen to the radio, talking about the last show. Someone got excited, had to call a state militia. Wanna move, playing in a traveling band. Yeah, well I'm flying across the land, trying to get a hand, playing in a traveling band. Wow! Here we come again on Saturday night. With your fussing and your fighting, won't you get me to the right? I won't move, playing in a traveling band. Yeah, well I'm flying across the land, trying to get a hand, playing in a traveling band. Wow! Playing in a traveling band, playing in a traveling band. Well, you give me tell my hand, but I'm playing in a traveling band. I'm flying across the land, trying to get a hand, playing in a traveling band. Wow!
Lazy yellow moon coming up tonight, shining through the trees. Crickets are singing and lightning bugs are floating on the breeze. Baby, get ready. Across the field where the creek turns back by the old stumble road, I'm gonna take you to a special place that nobody knows. Baby, get ready. Ooh, you and me going fishing in the dark, lying on our backs and counting the stars where the cool grass grows. Down by the river in the full moonlight, we'll be falling in love in the middle of the night, just moving slow. Spring is almost over and the summer's coming. The days are getting long. I waited all winter for the time to be right, just to take you along. Baby, get ready. And it don't matter if we sit forever and the fish don't bite. We'll jump in a river and cool ourselves from the heat of the night. Baby, get ready. Ooh, you and me going fishing in the dark, lying on our backs and counting the stars where the cool grass grows. Down by the river in the full moonlight, we'll be falling in love in the middle of the night, just moving slow. Staying the whole night through, it feels so good to be with you and me, going fishing in the dark, lying on our backs and counting the stars where the cool grass grows. Down by the river and down by the light, we'll be falling in love in the middle of the night, just moving slow. You and me going fishing in the dark, lying on our backs and counting the stars where the cool grass grows. Down by the river and down by the light, we'll be falling in love in the middle of the night, just moving slow.
If you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle in the band. That lead guitar is hot, but not for Louisiana man. So rosin up that bowl for faded love and let's all dance. If you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle in the band. I remember down in Houston, we were putting on a show when a cowboy in the back stood up and yelled, "Cotton Eye Joe!" He said, "We love what you're doing, boys, don't get us wrong. There's just something missing in your song. If you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle in the band. That lead guitar is hot, but not for Louisiana man. So rosin up that bowl for faded love and let's all dance. If you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle in the band." So we dusted off our boots and put our cowboy hats on straight. Them Texans raised the roof when Jeff opened up his case. You say y'all all want a two-step, you say you want a do-si-do. Well, here's a fiddling song before we go. If you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle in the band. That lead guitar is hot, but not for Louisiana man. So rosin up that bowl for faded love and let's all dance. If you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle in the band. If you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle in the band. That lead guitar is hot, but not for Louisiana man. So rosin up that bowl for faded love and let's all dance. If you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle in the band.
Girl, you taught me how to hurt real bad and cry myself to sleep. Showed me how this town shattered dreams. Another lesson about a naive fool who came to Babylon. Found out that the pie don't taste so sweet. Now his guitar's Cadillacs, hillbilly music, lonely, lonely streets that I call home. Yeah, my guitar's Cadillacs, hillbilly music, the only thing that keeps me hanging on. Ain't no glamour in this tinsel land of lost and wasted lives. Pain and scars are all that's left for me. Oh, but thank you, girl, for teaching me brand new ways to be cruel. If I can find my mind now, I guess I'll just leave. And his guitar's Cadillacs, hillbilly music, lonely, lonely streets I call home. Yeah, my guitar's Cadillacs, hillbilly music, the only thing that keeps me hanging on.
boots and we'll truck on down to an knocked-out shack on the edge of town. There's an 8-beat combo there just won't quit. You wanna walk until you see a blue light lit. Fall in there and we'll see some signs. Then at the house of blue lights, 'cause there were fryers, broilers, and Detroit and barbecue ribs. But the treats, treat you to the treats when they serve you them fine 8 beats. You're gonna spend the rest of your nights. And at the house of blue lights, we'll have a time and we'll cut some rug while we dig those tunes like they should be done. It's a real homecoming for all those cats. The boogie woogie bags, the welcome back. Fall in there and we'll see some sights. Then at the house of blue lights. It's a real homecoming for all of those cats, y'all. Boogie woogie pass a welcome back. Fall in there and we'll see some sights. Then at the house of blue lights, 'cause there were fryers, broilers, and Texas barbecue ribs. But the treats of the treats when they serve you them fine 8 beats, you're gonna spend the rest of your night. Then at the house of blue lights, you're gonna spend all the rest of your night. And at the house of blue lights. Oh yeah. Down at the house of blue lights.
I'm a chicken fried and cold beer on a Friday night, a pair of jeans that fit just right, and the radio. Well, I was raised up beneath the shade of a Georgia pine, and that's home, you know. Sweet tea, pecan pie, and homemade wine, where the peaches grow. In my house, it's not much to talk about, but it's filled when love is grown in southern ground, and a little bit of chicken fried. Cold beer on a Friday night, a pair of jeans that fit just right, and the radio. I like to see sunrise, see the love in my woman's eyes, feel the touch of a precious child, and know a mother's love. It's funny how it's the little things in life that mean the most, not where you live, what you drive, or the price tag on your clothes. There's no dollar sign on a peace of mind, this I've come to know. So if you agree, have a drink with me, raise your glasses for a toast to a little bit of chicken fried and cold beer on a Friday night, a pair of jeans that fit just right, and the radio. I like to see sunrise, see a precious child and know a mother's love. Thank God for my life and for the stars and stripes. May freedom forever fly. Let it ring. Salute the ones who died, the ones that give their lives so we don't have to sacrifice all the things we love, like our chicken fried and cold beer on a Friday night, a pair of jeans that fit just right, and the radio up. I like to see the sunrise, see the love in my woman's eyes, feel the touch of a precious child, and know a mother's love. Get your little chicken fried and cold beer on a Friday night, a pair of jeans that fit just right, and the radio up. I like to see the sunrise, see the love in my woman's eyes, feel the touch of my precious child, and know a mother's love.
Sun beat down, I had the radio on, I was driving, trees went by, me and Del were singing, Little Runaway, I was flying, yeah, running down a dream that never would come to me, working on a mystery, going wherever it leads, running down a dream. I felt so good, like anything was possible. Hit cruise control and rub my eyes. The last 3 days, and the rain was unstoppable. It was always cold, no sunshine. Yeah, running down a dream that never would come to me. Working on a mystery, going wherever it leads. Running down a dream. I rolled on, the sky grew dark. I put the pedal down to make some time. There's something good waiting down this road. I'm picking up whatever is mine.